Continuing our book reading. Codeword Barbelon 666, Danger in the Vatican, Book 1, The Sons of Laloya and Their Plans for World Domination by P.D. Stuart. We are in chapter 27. The Jesuit Congress of Vienna. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody is right if everybody's wrong. Stephen Stills. When on March 10th, 1791, Pope Pius VI finally gave his public condemnation of the French Revolution, he knew only too well the real agents of its agitation. 7 years later, he would face the wrath of the suppressed order. On February 13th, 1798, General Berthier of France, under Napoleon Bonaparte, marched against Pope Pius VI at his palace in Rome. Entering unopposed, Berthier proceeded to proclaim Rome a republic and demanded of the Pope the renunciation of his claim to temporal authority. When Pius VI refused, he was taken prisoner, and on February 20th was escorted from the Vatican to Siena, and from thence to the Certosa near Florence. He was later removed to the citadel of Valence by way of Parma, Picanzanina, Turin, Grenoble, where he died 6 weeks later. August 17th, 1999. I said that so wrong, 1999. I did not say that. August 1799, forgive me. Napoleon then proceeded to annex all the papal states. Not satisfied with the humiliation inflicted on Pius VI, probably on the advice of the Jesuit Abbé Sieyès, Napoleon, at the end of 1804, invited the next pope, Pius VII, Giovanni Angelo Braschi, who had studied at the Jesuit College of Cesena, where he received his doctorate in law, to Notre Dame, France. There, Napoleon personally lifted the bejeweled crown previously taken from the Vatican, and in the front of the proud pontiff proceeded to crown himself emperor. In 1807, General Myollis repeated on the person of Pope Pius VII the humiliation that General Berthier had heaped on Pius VI. To many, it appeared that a deadly wound had finally been inflicted on the papacy. In fact, many Protestants saw these developments as the fulfillment of the prophecies regarding the 1,260-year reign of the beast. They dated the rise of the papacy from 538 AD, when Emperor Justinian declared the Bishop of Rome head of all Christendom, to 1798, when Pius VI was taken prisoner by General Berthier. Nevertheless, this state of affairs did not last long. Emperor Napoleon was outwitted by his Jesuit handler, Abbé Sieyès. He was made to sign a concordat with the Vatican, agreeing to restore to France the power of the Catholic clergy. It was mainly the Jesuit clergy who were suppressed. Indeed, after signing the aforementioned concordat at St. Helena, by which the way was open for the Jesuits to be restored to power, Napoleon said that it was his greatest achievement to have raised the fallen altars of the Roman Church, put a stop to disorders, obliged the faithful to pray for the Republic, dissipated the scruples of those who had broken the last thread by which the old dynasty maintained communication with the country, France. Thus, it is a most curious thing that, having signed the concordat with Rome and aided the Jesuits, Napoleon was later abdicated power and forced into exile on the island of Elba in 1819. the very year that the Society of Jesus was returned to power. But Napoleon served the Jesuits' purpose well, and so it was not surprising that after Napoleon's exile, Pope Pius VII, showing his gratitude, offered asylum to Napoleon's elderly mother, as well as giving moral and material assistance to the emperor's entire family. The strongest proof of Napoleon's undying commitment to the Catholic Church is gleaned from the following statement made to his doctors. I believe in God. I am of my father's religion. How can you not believe in God? And in his last will and testament, drawn up 6 years before his death, April 15th, 1815, at Longwood, St. Helena, he declared, I die in the apostolic Roman religion, in the bosom of which I was born more than 50 years since. Historian Philip Schaff reveals that in 1819, Napoleon sent for 2 Italian priests, the aged Abbé Bonavita, who had been chaplain to his mother at Elba, and to the Princess Pauline at Rome, and the young Abbé Viganelli, a priest and physician and junior chaplain at St. Helena. And to them he professed his assent and submission to the Catholic faith and would attend the Catholic Mass every Sunday. Prior to his death on May 3rd, 1821, Napoleon was given extreme unction and received the Blessed Viaticum. He died with a crucifix resting on his breast. Schaff assures us these are indisputable facts. The Congress of Vienna. Hard upon the heels of the upheaval caused by the suppression of the Jesuits came the Congress of Vienna. It has been commented that it was too much of a coincidence that Pope Pius VII would resurrect the disgraced Jesuit order to their former glory by the bull of August 7th, 1814. Just in time, some say, for them to oversee the Illuminati-controlled Congress of Vienna. The Congress of Vienna, 1 November 1814 to 8 June 1815, held following the First Treaty of Paris in 1814, was an international conference called to reorganize Europe after the removal of Napoleon to restore the balance of power. According to historian Emmanuel M. Josephson, it was at the Congress of Vienna that the Jesuit war on the Vatican was terminated, and also by the secret 1822 Treaty of Verona. Discussions at the 1814 Congress revolved around the creation of a federation of Europe, the EU, formerly the EC. The whole purpose of the Congress of Vienna was to create a federation by which they would have complete political control over most of the civilized world. A year later, by the Act of Confederation, June 8, 1815, a German confederacy was set up to replace the old Holy Roman Empire. Bill Hughes, author of The Secret Terrorist and The Enemy Unmasked, has written about this in a series of other important historical meetings. These 3 meetings at Vienna, Austria in 1814 and 15, Verona, Italy in 1822, and Chieri, Italy in 1825, were held with as much secrecy as possible. However, one man attended the first 2 meetings that would not be silenced. British Foreign Minister George Canning contacted the U.S. government to warn them that the Catholic monarchs of Europe were planning to destroy the free institutions of America. Hughes adds, during this Congress of Verona, Italy, in 1822, it was decided that America would be the target of Jesuit emissaries and that America was to be destroyed at all cost. Every principle of the U.S. Constitution was to be dissolved, and new Jesuitical principles were to be put into place in order to exalt the papacy to dominion in America. It was the geopolitical machinations set up under the Congress of Vienna that caused President James Monroe to write the Monroe Doctrine. See Congregational Record in the speech of Senator Owen, Volume 53, Part 7, page 6781, 64th Congress, First Session, 25 April 1916. Today, the only enduring form of republic in existence is the United States Constitutional Republic. And because such a republic cannot be destroyed by ordinary political means, the means of last resort to be used must be terrorism for the implementation of a police state. I say more on this in Volume 2, particularly the events surrounding the attacks of September 11th. 2001, along with an analysis of why members of the bin Laden family were flown from America immediately after 9/11 when other airlines were not allowed to fly in American skies. No wonder we have not digressed. No, I said that totally wrong. No, reader, we have not digressed. As Dr. Wiley observed of the sons of Laloya, it is they who rule this world, and as far as they are concerned, whatever law, custom, or venerable office, and legal or other authority that stands between them and their purpose, their constitutions direct that they are at liberty to throw down and trample underfoot as a vile and accursed thing, as though they were above all laws, like a self-anointed aristocracy. The moral maxims of the Jesuits, says Wiley, are to be put in force against kings as well as against peasants. The Church of Rome has made it clear that the nation and kingdom that will not serve me shall perish. A Sarpi profoundly observed, not a Sharpie, as Sarpi profoundly observed, whenever and wheresoever the Roman Catholic Church has been in the ascendant, it has been a political institution. And whenever and wherever it ceases to be a political power in the land, it instantly becomes a political conspiracy. Indeed, when one thinks of the endless Jesuit staged conspiracies, one is reminded of what the old dog of Venice, Leonardo Donato, 1606 to 1612, told the Pope's nuncio after having imprisoned certain seditious priests in his city. Go back to Rome and tell your master, Pope Paul V, that there is never a deed of shame done in any part of the republic, but some worthless priest is at the bottom of it. This we shall shortly prove to be true when we come to consider the American Civil War. And I do want to continue because I really want to get to the one about Abraham Lincoln. Okay, so chapter 28, Rome and the American Civil War, a Jesuit coup d'etat. A friend is one who has the same enemies you have, Abraham Lincoln. America has been and must ever continue to be under God. Cardinal Spellman, America in Rome, Time Magazine, Monday, February 25th, 1946. A nobler object could not engage the attention of the American people than an impartial and honest investigation into the causes of their Civil War. Yet, a survey in 2007 revealed that 83% of American college seniors and 80% of college freshmen didn't know the difference between the American Civil War and the American Civil Rights Movement. There are two histories of the United States, particularly when it comes to the American Civil War. The history conveniently taught in schools and colleges emphasizes the internal tensions between the northern and southern states, asserting that the flashpoint for the first shots at Fort Sumter on April 12, 1861, was the decision by Lincoln to end American slavery, which, according to John Wesley, was the vilest in the whole world. But the other history, the real causes of both wars, is simply not told. Americans have had their history fed to them via television and Hollywood in simple and dramatic portraits, gore and glory, with clear and definite villains and heroes. The nuanced, shadowy, and often very sinister forces at work in their history are almost completely left out. Hollywood and the television producers perpetuate this travesty. And thus, when it comes to the important details of the two most significant segments of Americans' history, the great majority of Americans are completely ignorant, abysmally ignorant. American historians have neglected documents of monumental importance, the official records of the Union Confederate navies in the War of the Rebellion, a source of the greatest relevance, revealing conclusively the true motives and guiding hand behind the American Civil War. In 1816, 2 years after the restoration of the Jesuits by Pope Pius VII, ex-President John Adams wrote to sitting President Thomas Jefferson, 1743 to 1826, third U.S. President, in a letter, quote, "I do not like the resurrection of the Jesuits. They have a general now in Russia, in correspondence with the Jesuits in the United States, who are more numerous than anybody knows. Shall we not have swarms of them here in as many disguises as only a king of the gypsies can assume, dressed as painters, publishers, writers, and schoolmasters, perhaps as presidents too? I have lately read Pascal's letters over again, and 4 volumes of the history of the Jesuits. If ever any congregation of men could merit eternal perdition on earth and in hell, it is this company of Loyola. Yet the American who cares to know the motive force behind the cause of their bloody civil war, consider the intriguing words of Pope Pius IX in a letter to Jefferson Davis, the president of the Southern Rebellion. That letter of December 3rd, 1863 is reproduced with emphasis. Illustrious and honorable sir, greetings. We have lately received with all kindness, as was meet, the gentleman sent by your excellency, Davis's envoy, to present to us your letter dated on the 23rd of last September. We have received certainly no small pleasure in learning both from these gentlemen and from your letter the feelings of gratification and of very warm appreciation with which you, illustrious and honorable sir, were moved when you first had knowledge, written in October of the preceding year, to the venerable brethren, John, Archbishop of New York, and John, Archbishop of New Orleans, in which we again and again urged and exhorted those venerable brethren that became of their exemplary piety and episcopal zeal, they should employ their most earnest efforts in our name also, in order that the fatal civil war which had arisen in the states should end. Oh, that the other people also of the states and their rulers, President Lincoln's government, considering seriously how cruel and how deplorable in this internecine war, would receive and embrace the counsels of peace and tranquility. And we also pray the same merciful Lord that he will illumine Your Excellency, with the light of his divine grace, and unite you with ourselves in perfect charity. At first blush, this letter from Pope Pius IX seems quite innocuous, but it is not as benign as it appears. Note that on the one hand, Pius IX addresses Jefferson Davis as Your Excellency, and with the title Illustrious and Honorable, Jefferson Davis, President of the Confederate States of America. So the Pope considered the rebellious Jeff Davis to be the legitimate President of the Confederate States of America. While on the other hand, he refers to Abraham Lincoln, the legitimately elected president, and his cabinet merely as the other people of the states and their rulers. The reader will see in these simple words the approval given by the Pope to the Southern Confederacy, and also his recognition of Jefferson Davis as the President of the Confederate States, when in fact the rebellious Confederacy was at war with the elected government of Abraham Lincoln. Pope Pius's letter to Jefferson Davis was printed in the Richmond newspaper with the intended effect of getting the Irish Catholics in the Union Army to desert, which is exactly what happened. U.S. Army Brigadier General Thomas M. Harris writes, "This letter of the Pope Pius IX to Jefferson Davis, couched in such courteous and loving terms, and showing so clearly that his sympathy was with the Southern cause, was well understood by his, i.e. the Pope's, loyal and faithful subjects all over the North. Roman Catholic officers in the Northern Union Army began to resign rank and file." It was after this letter of the Pope was published that the Irish Roman Catholic federal troops deserted in their droves after seeing in newsprint that their Holy Father, Pope Pius IX, had dispatched an official communique of support to Confederate President Jefferson Davis, addressing him as illustrious and honorable President of the Confederate State of America. We call again upon a witness of impeccable character and with personal knowledge of the treasonous events, Brigadier General Harris, a member of the 1865 Military Commission Tribunal that tried and convicted 8 conspirators for the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Brigadier Harris wrote, 72% of Irish Catholics deserted the Union Army compared to just 5 to 10% of each of the various other nationalities that made up Lincoln soldiers. Of the 144 Irishmen that enlisted, 104,000 deserted. Did I say that right? Of the 144,000 Irishmen that enlisted, 104,000 deserted. Union General George Meade allowed Confederate General Robert E. Lee's defeated army, which had lost half its soldiers, to escape, thus prolonging the bloody war. In the Cedar Run battle between Union General Pope and Confederate General Stonewall Jackson in 1862, Pope landed on the peninsula with nearly 100,000 men and was later reinforced with 158,000 men, yet he left with only 55,000 living. Deliberate sabotage. Our second witness is Dr. William P. Grady, who writes that when the retreating forces from Confederate General Lee's debacle at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, in July 1863, should have been crushed on the banks of the swollen Potomac River, Lincoln's Roman Catholic Union Army commander, General George Meade, conveniently diverted a third of his army to securing New York City during the draft riots, perpetuated by the rampaging parishioners of Catholic Archbishop John Hughes. Next, we call upon the first-hand testimony contained in the official records of the Union Confederate navies in the War of the Rebellion. Hereafter, official Confederate Navy records. There we find many pages containing an original correspondence between the Pope Pius IX and the Confederate Catholic President Jefferson Davis, in which is evidence the Pope's unequivocal approval and support for the Confederate cause. And then it has on here, and I'm not sure what he means, but it says, see, for example, pages 11, 73, 74, 152, 546, 900. Wow, there's a lot of pages. Anyways, letters dated September 24th, 1863, October 18th, 1862, September 24th, 1863, November 11th, 1863, December 12th, 1863, etc. And importantly, there is a letter dated January 15th, 1864, in which Dudley Mann, Jefferson Davis's special envoy to Rome, reports to the Confederate president that in all intelligent British circles, our recognition by the Pope is considered formal and complete. And the influence of that measure, i.e., the Pope's apparently neutral letter, is of incalculable value in our behalf. Even more significant is the information recorded in pages 963 to 964 of the official Confederate Navy records. It is the original of an earlier letter of the said A. Dudley Mann, dated November 23rd, 1863, regarding his audience with the Pope and Jesuit Cardinal Antonelli. Antoine Ellie? I think that's how you say it. Mann's lengthy letter states in the very first paragraph, quote, I will state that my reception at the Vatican was cordial in the broadest sense of the word, and that my mission has been as successful as the President, Confederate Jefferson Davis, could have desired it to be. On the 19th, I had a second interview with Cardinal Antonelli, and I had intended it to be of short duration, but he became so interested in the communications which I made to him that he prolonged it for nearly an hour. He took the occasion to inform me at the commencement that the acting representative of the United States, i.e., the real representative of the USA, sent by President Lincoln, had obtained an interview of him the day before to remonstrate against the facilities afforded by the government of the Holy See to rebels for entering and abiding in Rome, and he, the cardinal, promptly replied that he intended to take such rebels under his special protection. This letter from Mann continues with these telling words, revealing the true purpose and the intended effect of the Pope's apparently peaceful and benign letter. Quote, I can form no conjecture when the letter of His Holiness to the President, Jefferson Davis, will be ready for delivery. As soon as I receive it, I will endeavor to prevail upon him, the Pope, to have the correspondence, the letter, published in the official journal here. Its information would be powerful upon all Catholic governments in both hemispheres. Thus, I am exceedingly hopeful that before spring our independence, i.e., from the United States Union, would be generally acknowledged. Russia alone will probably stand aloof until we are recognized by the North, the Union, and Lincoln. So far, my mission to Rome has not found its way into the newspapers. I will keep it secret in order that the publications of the letter, i.e., the Pope's, may, from its unexpectedness, cause a salutary sensation everywhere when it occurs. I have reason to believe that I have said in high places in relation to Irish immigration to New York were words in season, unquote. Did you get that? Read it again. Let it sink in. If the Pope's letter, the subject of Dudley Mann's letter above, was a neutral and benign how do you say that word? It's COMMUNIQUE. Communique. Then why would Mr. Mann, Jefferson Davis's envoy to the Pope, say the letter would be powerful upon all Catholic governments in both hemispheres, or that I will keep it secret, that it may cause a salutary sensation everywhere? Yet he later calls it a benign event. Such was the designing intent of the Pope's letter of peace. Note, too, there was a secret purpose in high places. Rome, November 21st, 1863. Sir, I confidently trust that my NOS 66 and 67, giving detailed accounts of my audience with the Sovereign Pontiff and of my interview with the Cardinal Secretary of State, will have been in your possession some days previous to the arrival of this. Lest, however, they may have been delayed in their way to their destination, I will state that my reception at the Vatican was cordial in the broadest sense of the word, and that my mission has been as successful as the President could have possibly desired it to be. On the 19th, I had a second interview with Cardinal Antonelli. The above scan is part of an earlier letter from Mann to Jefferson Davis regarding Cardinal Antonelli and the Pope and their support for the cause of the Confederate South. The most conclusive document of all is page 973 of the official Confederate Navy records, a letter dated December 9th, 1863, from the said Dudley Mann to J.P. Benjamin, Secretary of State for the Confederate South at Richmond, Virginia, regarding the Pope's letter quoted at the opening of this chapter, in response to an earlier letter from Jefferson Davis. Mann's correspondence about the Pope's letter reads in pertinent parts: Sir, the Cardinal Secretary of State, Antonelli, Secretary of State for Rome, officially transmitted to me yesterday the answer of the Pope to the President. This communication, the Pope's letter, is a positive recognition of our government. It is addressed to the illustrious and honorable President of the Confederate States of America. Mann's letter continues. Thus we acknowledged by as high an authority as this world contains, his reference to the Pope. I congratulate you. I congratulate the President. I congratulate his cabinet. In short, I congratulate all my true-hearted countrymen and countrywomen upon this benign event, i.e., the Pope's carefully worded letter. He concludes with these words, revealing the intended effects of the Pope's cloak and dagger letter. Quote, the document is in the Latin language, as are all documents prepared by the Pope. I cannot risk its capture at sea, and therefore I shall retain it until I can convey it with entire certainty to the President. It will adorn the archive of our country, i.e., the Confederate Southern States, in all coming time. The example of the Sovereign Pontiff, if I am not much mistaken, will exercise a salutary influence upon both the Catholic and the Protestant governments of Western Europe. Humanity will be aroused everywhere to the importance of every emulation, i.e., the lead given by the Pope in acknowledging the Southern Rebellion. Read Mann's letter of December 9th, 1863 to J.P. Benjamin, number 69, Rome, December 9th, 1863. Sir, the Cardinal Secretary of State Antonelli officially transmitted to me yesterday the answer of the Pope to the President. In the very direction of this communication, there is a positive recognition of our government. It is addressed to the illustrious and honorable Jefferson Davis, President of the Confederate States of America. Thus we are acknowledged by as high an authority as this world contains to be an independent power of the earth. I congratulate you. I congratulate the President. I congratulate his cabinet. In short, I congratulate all my true-hearted countrymen and countrywomen upon this benign event. The hand of the Lord has been in it, and eternal glory and praise be to his holy and righteous name. The document is in the Latin language, as are all documents prepared by the Pope. I cannot incur the risk of its capture at sea. I have the honor to be, sir, very respectfully, your obedient servant, A. Dudley Mann. These letters of Dudley Mann, special envoy to Rome, were taken from the government archives of the official Confederate Navy records. They tell a far different story of the Civil War to that famously taught in the history books, depicted in the movies and television documentaries. They confirm the allegations of Charles Chanakwi, see next chapter, concerning the involvement of the Pope and the Jesuits in the American Civil War. As Abraham Lincoln said, from the very beginning of our Civil War, there has been not a secret, but a public alliance between the Pope of Rome and Jeff Davis. They lost the war, but seized control of the U.S. When the Civil War ended, everyone blamed Jeff Davis and the Confederates, while the Jesuits slipped away unnoticed under the dark shadow of the papacy. These facts are testimony to the dangers of Romanism in the midst of its enemies, those nations that do not accept her supremacy. In any nation where it is found, Romanism is a cancer in various stage of malignancy, a worm that slowly eats away at the root of democratic government. As Professor Sarpi, a man once held in honor at Rome, said, the Roman Catholic Church is a political conspiracy, a gigantic ecclesiastical conspiracy. Said the historian J. Wayne Lawrence wrote, we recognize in the Roman Catholic priesthood and the Jesuit brotherhood two distinct political organizations united in purpose and using religion as a mask for political purpose, as they always have in all ages and countries. After the war, the Jesuits had the 14th Amendment ratified July 21st, 1868, thereby making the states subordinate and derivative and the federal government paramount and dominant, thus reversing the origin and character of United States citizenship. To quote the words of the U.S. Supreme Court, under the 14th Amendment, the Bill of Rights and the common law were no longer rights of United States citizens. Then in 1873, in the Slaughterhouses cases, 83 U.S. 36, 1873, the Supreme Court confirmed these changes to the fundamental rights of the people. See Maxwell versus Dow, 176 U.S. 581, 1899. And in Colgate versus Harvey, the court again confirmed that the Bill of Rights was no longer part of the rights of the American people. So now we have what the Jesuits call judicial supremacy, the opening of the way for the introduction of canon law into the American legal system. A situation not too improbable now that we have the U.S. Supreme Court is dominated 5-4 by ultra-conservative Roman Catholics, two of whom may well be Jesuits, John Roberts and Antonian Scalelli. As Associate Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall said on May 6, 1987, in his bicentennial speech, while the Union survived the Civil War, the Constitution did not. As a result of this legal coup, today we have the Jesuit-led Patriot Act, masterminded by the Roman Catholic Jesuit professor Veit Din of Georgetown University Law School. Truly, the Jesuits can now say of America, as did Julius Caesar to Roman Senate after his victory over Zella, Turkey, Veni, Vidi, Vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. That is crazy. All right. That ends those two chapters. I am going to pick back up after this and read the last chapter, then go to bed. So keep your eyes on Jesus, brothers and sisters. Your nose in the book, which is the Word of God. And embed the Word of God upon the tablets of your heart, my heart, so we will not sin against God or be deceived. Like I said, I'm going to pick it right back up in here in just a minute.